Hey everyone, this is Bill.McCartney with Coldwell Banker Realty here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Today we're looking at the Phoenix real estate market, and before I dive into this data and look at the latest market trends, I want to share with you that Phoenix is the fifth largest city in the United States with a residency count of more than 1.6 million as of 2021, and it also covers more than 500 square miles. So Phoenix is a really large area. So as we look at some of this data and you see some of these numbers, they might seem like they're very big, like there's a lot of activity and things happening, but don't be fooled because it is covering a large area. So we'll dive into the information. And today we're looking at single family homes specifically in the city of Phoenix. If you want information about any other area, I'm happy to help you with that as well. So let's look at the overview. We have new listings. I like to always look at new listings. The month of October, we saw 1,042 new listings, which was a little bit less than what we saw last month, but was pretty consistent with what the 3-month average was preceding October. When we compare it, although, to October of 22, it was significantly less properties that came to market. And as we go through this information, we'll kind of see what that means and how it affects somebody's ability to purchase a home and somebody's ability and what their experience looks like when they sell a home as well. So that's the new listings that came to market. I also like to look at the median sales price, of course, because everyone wants to know, well, where are the values trending? Are they going to continue to go up? Are they going down? Are they stable? And right now, we saw a median sales price of $475,000, which is a little bit higher than what we saw last month, but pretty consistent to what that last 3-month average was. However, it is higher than the October 22 data point of 449,000. So, we'll look at the trends and what that means overall. And when we look at where we think the market might be going, this is the big question. Part of this, or a big part of this, has to do with the month supply of inventory, because that's your relationship between supply and demand. Supply is the number of homes that are for sale, and the demand side is the number of buyers that are in the market and buying property. So right now we have less than 3 months of a supply of homes, which is 2.57, and that is significantly less than where we were at this time last year. Now, what does a balanced market mean? You might see some of the headlines or other agents kind of reporting that we're leaning more towards that balanced market. However, in the city of Phoenix, it doesn't look that way. So it's also important that when you make these decisions for yourself and your family, that you look at the local market data with your agents, just so that you can get a better sense as to what's actually happening in your specific area or your area of interest. So to further describe a little bit more about what a balanced market is, because this might not be apparent to everybody, basically what it means is if you've got a 6-month supply of inventory, that's the number of homes for sale, it would take 6 months at the current pace of sales to absorb all of that inventory or to sell all of those homes, with an assumption that no other homes are coming to the market. Now, if you have less than 6 months, that means there are less homes available for sale than what the current demand will actually, take in. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense for you. Now, we'll look at the average and median sales price. These are the trends that most people like to look at because it really affects your pocketbook, right? So when you look at the average, which is the top average sales price versus the median sales price, you can see these data points. These are all October data points. This is October of 23, October of 22, and October of 21. You notice that the trend line is upward, which is probably not a surprise to anybody. And when you notice here, like the average is a little bit different, you kind of see it taking off a little bit more versus it leveling out here on the median. The difference between the average, and you can have, say, a large sale in 1 month or a few large sales in 1 month, really kind of skew those numbers. So we really like to look at the median sales price a little bit more, because that kind of balances things out just a little bit for you and takes into consideration, the midpoint in which homes are kind of selling at. So just balances things out a little bit, but the trends are definitely upward for values. Now let's go into the list to sales price ratio. And this is if you're a seller, and you were selling a home, the last few years, you were in a really good position, because this 100 number is basically the seller's asking price. And there was a time period where just about every sale, on average, was selling at or above the asking price that the seller had put out there on the listing. And that was because the demand was far exceeding what the supply was. So you had more buyers than you had listings or homes for sale. And whenever you have that, that creates a multiple offer situation, and then prices tend to be pushed up based on those market conditions. As we saw interest rates adjust and demand ultimately fall off a bit because affordability had been impacted, well, we saw the seller's position kind of dwindle a little bit, or at least their advantage dwindle a little bit in the negotiations, kind of balance things out a little bit more. And then since January of this year, we actually saw kind of a return to that seller's market. And I'll describe this time period as kind of like a pause. When rates were going up and people were concerned about their affordability, they were also concerned about the direction of the market and the impact that mortgage rates would have on values. So there were some people that kind of took a little bit of a step back, and once they realized, you know what, rents are still expensive, I still need a place to live, they decided to re-enter the market and accept the conditions as they were. So they came back to the market and started buying properties, because let's face it, we all need a place to live. And everything in this world has become more expensive with inflation, including housing. So let's look at the demand side of things a bit, and this is the number of properties sold along with the absorption rate. I want to focus really on the number of sales here, because when you see when the money was cheap, right, and the interest rates were really low, there were a lot of sales. Sometimes in these environments, you can artificially expand the buyer pool, meaning more buyers are available to purchase homes than ordinarily would because of those conditions. It could be low rates, it could be the type of financing that's offered. Any of those conditions would apply. And as soon as the rates, affected that demand side of things, of course, we saw the demand come down. This is what the Fed is purposely doing to actually control inflation and prices, not just with housing, but with everything that we consume as consumers. So you see here that in the last 2 years, or the last year I should say, the number of sales has fallen off by about 50%, that's a really big deal. It hasn't impacted values as I think many people thought that it would, and it has more to do again with how many properties are available for sale. So we'll continue on, but the average days on market, we did see that peak in that pause time where people kind of retreated and said what's going to happen to the market, and as of course they came back into the market, we saw things return to a point where as of this October, on average it took 32 days to sell a home. So again, if you're a seller and you have the ability to sell, the desire to sell, you're in a very good position to get really good price, terms, and conditions for the sale of your home, just based on the market conditions alone. That said, it's still important to take a look at this data and make sure that you don't come to the market at a price where the buyers will reject the property. So discuss that with your agent. If you have any questions, I'm happy to walk you through that as well, and take a look at your specific community with your specific goals in mind so that we can help you to accomplish your objectives. Now, the other thing I think is good to look at is the average sales price per square foot, because when we look at the median sales price, when we look at the average sales price, those are two good data points to consider. But you may also have a situation where there's a composition of homes that are selling that are larger or smaller that can also impact what those value points will look like, those data points. Here it's another way of kind of just equalizing things just a bit and gives you a different perspective on the same data. And of course, this is similar and consistent with what we've seen in terms of the trends, and the values have been going up. So when we look at the inventory side of things and kind of explain why, with such a lower amount of demand, why values are still going up, it really has to do more with the fact that there aren't that many more homes available for sale. And if we see where we were last year, and you kind of see where we peaked with inventory and things are coming down, at the same time, the values are dropping as the inventory was increasing. So buyers had more options, sellers weren't in the best position, or as good of a position, I should say. And it impacted values to a degree. However, you see the values start to go up as the inventory was coming down and buyers had less available to them. So We ended the month of October with just under 2,000 single-family homes available for sale in that 500 square mile geographic area, which is really not a lot of homes. And what's interesting is that we know demand has kind of come down a bit. The inventories come down a bit as well, and that's because we had less new listings come to the market this year. And we can continue to see less listings come to the market, as we saw in that first overview that we looked at, which is keeping the month supply of sales for home down below that 3-month supply range and increasing those values. So if you have any questions about this information, whether it's specific to Phoenix or quite frankly anywhere across the country, I'm always happy to help and point you in the right direction. We can talk about that. If you did find value in this video, please hit that like button. Like I said, it really helps out the channel. And if you'd like to subscribe and get future notifications on any new videos that I upload, you can also subscribe, but hit that alert button as well. Hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.